What's the final record going to be for the LSU Tigers when the sun sets on the 2025 regular season? We're going to predict it right now, game by game. Before we do that, LSU fans, make sure you're subscribed. A lot of y'all have been getting subscribed to the show as of late, so we appreciate y'all for that. But if you haven't yet, no time like the present. Massive 1 week one. We'll do a full preview and prediction on that game in itself during the game week. So the bottom line here is if you want more LSU content or you're just a college football sicko, make sure you're locked in, make sure you're subscribed. So here's my thing with LSU, man. I think I'm in love. And I don't care who knows it. Shout out Buddy the Elf. The portal class is awesome. Garrett Nussmeier in his second year in the system with the same OC, and then Blake Baker's back as the DC, and the defense, honestly, I think should be even better positioned because of how good that offense is going to be. Like there's a lot I like, dare I say what I just said, love about LSU. Now, here's the funny thing about being in love. There's always a point now where you got to decide, is this real or do I just love the idea of this? You know what I'm saying? And I think the decision I have to come to, or the conversation I have to have, is do I actually love this roster or do I love the idea of this roster? Because as much as I love Garrett Nussmeier, and I told you the receiving core, and Nuss told us in Atlanta for SEC Media Days, there's no receiver that he believes runs over a 4.4, which even if it's not true, it's a wild thing to even potentially be true. The offensive line, right? You lose Will Campbell. You lose two other pieces, I believe. Like it's a different looking offensive line, to say the least. Here's my reassurance. I think what you did via the portal and who you have at quarterback and that receiving core, to me, makes that job easier up front. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be just a walk in the park because you got Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. What I am saying, though, is because of the experience you have with a guy pulling the trigger, can make quicker decisions. If you have the receiving core the caliber of what Garrett Nussmeier says you have with Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, Chris Hill, like we can keep doing the whole name thing, and that'd be fun for all of us, but let's get to the point here. You have guys that get open more quickly. You have to block for less time. Just kind of how football works. But the point I'm trying to make is I do love LSU. All right, so yes, you can talk about the idea of it, but I do love LSU. Now, the defense in itself, I told you I like the overall temperature that they're playing at. Blake Baker coming over from Missouri a year ago. He's back for another go at it. He wants to apply pressure. He wants to play aggressive. And if y'all are dialed into just what LSU defense has been over the course of the last decade plus, that's kind of their MO. They are the enforcers, hammering out the nail kind of vibe. Harold Perkins back for another year. Kind of do this every single year, but I'm ready to get hurt one more time, and I'm believing in it. They are going to, I think, utilize Harold Perkins with what he does best, which is rushing the passer. Brian Kelly kind of alluded to it as much during SEC Media Days. He said, we're going to put Harold in position to do what he does best, which to me means he's going to go get after the quarterback. Whit Weeks, he's back for another year. There's a lot of names, plus all the portal pieces that not just add top-end talent, but add depth. All right, so that's how I feel about the LSU defense overall. Now, you can talk about the roster, but rosters only get you so far. What are the intangibles for LSU? Can't quantify them right now, but here's what I will say. I think the continuity at the most important spots on this football team, when you look at leadership, I think it's the best in the country. Like, LSU will play two teams on their schedule that bring back the quarterback that started game one a year ago, bring back the same OC, DC, and head coach. Those two schools that I can gather right now, in the SEC at least, are Arkansas and Vanderbilt. So again, speaking just to the SEC, I'll take LSU over those two teams with that, matchup of that nucleus of leadership positions every single day of the week. Just how I feel about it. I'll say this. I think it's the best in the country when you talk about that nucleus of returning quarterback that started game one. Again, OCDC head coach. Like, it's all there. It's all there for me. Now, people are going to say, well, Brian Kelly's going to hold him back. And I've done the whole soapbox thing about how he's coached for X amount of years and won over 70% of his games. We don't need to revisit that. But I think that when you're an old school coach, kind of like how I think Brian Kelly operates, I don't think that's for everybody. And I think it takes some time for that to eventually start to work. Like, I think it's an acquired taste, but going on yet another year for Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge, like going on year 4, I think this is kind of the spot where if you're at LSU or you've stayed at LSU or you've committed to LSU, at this point, you're in. You're in for it. You are buying into the way that Brian Kelly is doing things. So for better or for worse, you are all right now on the same page. And I think it takes a little bit longer with how Brian Kelly operates for that to be the reality. So how I feel about it, I feel great about LSU. Let's go game by game here and give you our record prediction. First game at Clemson. Everyone's saying, I haven't won an opener since they won the national championship. Well, I think they win this one. Now, Clemson might be the most talented team in college football, top to bottom. Number one in returning production. There's a lot of stats to like about Clemson. But here's my thing. LSU needs it. LSU needs this one, man. If they do not win that home opener, or not that home opener, but that opener, I should say, before they go home and play La Tech. Brian Kelly slammed his fist on a table last year when they lost to USC. I shudder to think about what he'd do to a table if they lost another opener against Clemson. I'll bet on the team that needs it. And LSU, they need it. So I think you get that win at Clemson. From there, you beat La Tech. You play Florida. Revenge kind of game for LSU. You get that win. You beat Southeast Louisiana. You get a win at Ole Miss. Kind of treacherous potentially going on the road post Southeast Louisiana and after a win over Florida, but it is what it is. Get that win. Then you have a bye. Then you play South Carolina. Now, South Carolina honestly had LSU on the ropes in that game a year ago in Columbia. And if you go back and watch that game, there's a couple of times where you're just like, man, how did LSU find a way to get this done? I think South Carolina feels like they let that one get away last year. I think Lenora Sellers might be the best player in college football, not named Jeremiah Smith. I think you actually dropped that game to South Carolina. But then you get back on the right side of things. At Vanderbilt, you get a win. Sneaky. Diego Pavia. Gritty. Sneaky. But I think you get a win against them on the road in a hopefully not too sleepy Nashville, but you get a win against them on the road. And then you play A&M in Baton Rouge. Same deal with the Florida game. Revenge game. Nussmeier remembers how that game went a year ago, where you're up in the first half and you think you're about to take over Kyle Field. Marcel Reed subs in. Things go south. All right, so I think you win that game, and I think that's honestly the toughest stretch of your schedule. Like South Carolina, at Vandy, A&M. I don't see a more difficult stretch of 3 games on LSU's schedule outside of that. And that's kind of the part I love about LSU when you look at what they're going to be here in 25. There is, and this is, shout out Matt Moscona for kind of putting us on game here. There's no like super tough game followed by super tough game. There's a lot of like chances to reset for LSU. Like, for example, you play A&M, you get a bye before going to Bama. Awesome. Then you play Arkansas. Arkansas is not going to be a walkover, but they're not going to be, I don't think, anything all that treacherous compared to what you have on the schedule outside of that. Western Kentucky, before you play Oklahoma. You get a win over Arkansas and Western Kentucky before you play Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to be pretty good this year, to be real with y'all. I think John Mateer is going to be a dog, but I think you win that football game. So you finish the year with a record there of 11-1. 11-1, which I think will put you in the SEC championship game. Now, do I have you winning the SEC? Make sure you're dialed into our show on Tuesday for our full prediction special where we'll predict conference winners, we'll predict national championship. But I'm very high on LSU for all the reasons I already told you throughout this video, but I feel good about the defense. I can talk myself into the offensive line. I love Garrett Nussmeier and his progression going into another year and him being able to, I think, actually have a better handle on what it's going to take in some of these games late in the year to go make LSU a playoff team and beyond. And then I love the fact that it's now another year under Brian Kelly, and I think his way of doing things has totally permeated throughout that building, plus the continuity at the coordinator position. So got LSU at 11-1, punching their ticket to play for a conference title in Atlanta that first weekend of December. But LSU fans, get at me on here. Get at me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. Get at us on the Bengal Tiger message board on 3's LSU site. Let me know what you got LSU's final record at. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We'll keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.